if I was acting as some type of ambassador and wanted to impress China, it is completely different than trying to impress Japan. With China, we're going full throttle to a parade, an American parade. We're gonna have fun. I would show up with the right funds in the morning saying, we're going to a garden, we're going to a parade, we're going to have peaceful breakfast in a garden. Then we're going to hit the parade. Then we're going to go to the best 50s and 60s diner that I can find in the state we're in or wherever we can go. Then we're going to visit somebody that actually lived through the last time that, like, Annie Oakley or someone was alive. Like, you're going to meet someone that's old enough to tell you about the West calmly. We're going to sit there and we're going to listen to him recite what he remembers about, dime store novels and stuff like that. And you're going to meet a piece of American history, and make a friend. Something that, they're going to remember forever. If I was going to do the same thing with Japan, it's completely different. The only thing that's similar is starting out in a garden with morning tea. And then after we have a very, very quiet tea and a very quiet time, we're going to go and visit museums that have history of when we learned better, when we overcame fear of the Japanese after Pearl Harbor and things like that. We're going to learn that we knew we were wrong for that much death afterwards. We were wrong for having camps like Hitler would have. We were wrong for that. And we're going to take a very solemn moment and respect and show appreciation for those people who went through all that. And then we're going to, at the very end of the night, it might get a little wild, but that would be completely private. I would say that we're going to go somewhere that it is completely free of spying eyes and everything else, and we're going to appreciate beauty. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with men or women or things like that, but we're going to find somewhere we can appreciate quiet beauty. And you're going to see that we still have a quaint side because of the influence from, even if you look at things like Star Trek, there's a calming entity. We needed that after that to heal. And people stuck around to do that. So, gratitude and stuff like that. They're like completely different. That if it was someone from the Soviet Union, I'm going to start piling seeds on them. Like, I'm not doing weaponry, but we're gonna learn what your climate's like, what might grow, and we're gonna get you growing food. And we're gonna talk about thermal construction, and we're gonna talk about how you can build stuff that will keep you warm, and that if you impress Russia enough in that regard, and you start industrializing a little bit, but not a lot, just enough to get nature back on there, and you really go for GMO, like, free foods, and that's a basis for both of you, that you want to feed the world. That if somebody comes there and there's a stranger, you like the idea of having enough food to share. That's common on both sides. So we get them enough food to share, there might be more sharing that way. And Russia's already got a big hit, or a big lead when it comes to GMO-free food. If they were here, it's still different than the Soviet Union. Soviet Union, I'm looking at traditional stuff like old school quiet and old school food. For Russia, I'm looking at new candies. Like, what are we going to do if he's here? We're going to visit a candy shop. That's a big one. Because we're gonna see kids happy. Because they'll automatically feel better when they see kids happy. We're going to visit, not join, sorry, Orthodox Russian church and see how the people are living so they have comfort knowing that they're okay here. Like, or I would really show them that here you're still somewhat safe. For some reason, this town is like completely conspiracy theory oriented and thought I was Russian for a while. I'm like, I had to watch a interpreter. I had to watch 3 different interpreters that barely said the same thing that Putin was saying. I'm like, I almost have to learn Russian just so you people won't lie to me about what he's saying. Just to get a solid interpreter. And then they talk about the news over there being bought by the government. I'm like, I already found money trails from the way we do ambassadors and stuff in Hollywood. There's enough money in Hollywood budgeting to certain films that it would be more like pre-programming than just paying for the news. Why can't we have a government-run news outlet to where we have something as solid as our government telling us the news? Videotape my meltdown, trying to talk, reasoning to caller in here, and it's like, they probably got sick of so much lying and needed some type of base. That's understandable. And and I want to show appreciation that we need to take not leaf, but we need to take reference out of how they organize and how they do their thing when it comes to being accepting, but not promoting. Like, we need to learn that. Because we have a bad habit of Americans of just spotlighting and booming whatever the underdog is or something, and we make a civilization of underdogs sometimes when we do that. And that's not what we need to do. Thinking about just partying with China is clogging my head. Like, it's different with a big, happy party. Like, if we're honest, Britain didn't do festivals. They did walking through a festival and, showing people how great some things are. We learned a lot from the Chinese when it came to doing a real festival, like, where there's almost living graphics, like costumes and all that kind of stuff. You can see the influence. And they're like a big brother. Like, our natives came from a frozen drift, probably north of China, and walked across it to get to Alaska. And that's why we had a population here that we need to hold sacred. So where did they come from? China and Japan. It could have been a mass exodus a long time ago where people didn't get along and they wanted to get along and left together. We don't know that. But wouldn't that be a beautiful thing for the U.S. to exist? Or wouldn't that be a beautiful start to our natives? And what they are? That's one of the hardest things to do. You want to talk about going in and trying to do peaceful negotiations. No tribe is the same. They almost all have different traditions, different languages. Like, they're different countries in a way. And to be an ambassador that way would be difficult. That's a difficult one. But for the rest of the countries, it's like we forgot how to do basic respect, and we used to be known for being the most, like, humble and respectful people if you're abroad. Like, working with them. Like, if you saw somebody struggling and you were a soldier, you kind of, for a second, You moved your gun around and you started lifting and clearing a path with people and stuff like that. That's what we were known for. It's freedom fighting. A lot of the world's already free, and that made it to where we just were fighting. We don't want to be like Britain. We don't want an empire. We can't afford it. China could afford it. We can't afford it. But if they do that, and we're respectful, we don't really have to worry about it the same way. Like, we don't have to change people in different ways. We need to take a lesson even from Germans, where we don't change the civilizations that we go into. We don't just give them peanut butter and drop crap like that. We give them seeds. We learn the country. We learn what they need in that country, and we help them produce it, like the old school way. That's how you fight for freedom. It's freedom for food, freedom for passage, freedom for, thought. Feels like every American value is being messed with, and it doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It has to do with the last 20 years of letting ourselves look like the most degenerate nation that ever existed, that we just kind of went for wants. Are you okay? Are you feeling okay? What drugs do you need? It's like, what? So we look like selfish pigs to everything. And legalizing marijuana, look at how well Amsterdam did. Like, they have avoided a lot of conflict, a lot of it, because of that kind of stuff. We have the potential to do that and be a very, not carefree, but very understanding and calm nation from that. Then they talk about an opiate crisis. I'm like, have you ever heard of Woodstock? Like, they didn't call that an opiate crisis. And there was actual opium. Or an opioid crisis. No, people were just partying. And as long as they went to work and paid their taxes, we didn't give a shit. There ain't no reason to give a crap how somebody spends their time at home if they're doing their job. I don't care if a soldier comes up to a hospital and says that he has some need for a strong drug. I don't care that that hospital prescribes it to him until he dies, if he dies happy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't care. I don't care enough to be his mommy and tell him, no, don't do that. He fought, he's got something going on, and he's going to die happy, and that's it. Now, for the ones that are worried about it and voice a concern that they want something better, then we establish that. But these men have fought death. That does something. Where they might need to not be in this world the same way as everybody else all the time. I'm not going to look down at them for it. There's no way. The guys at the VFW that have to have their day beer, more power to you. It's cheap for a reason. Don't forget you can play euchre too. There's other ones that will be strict on themselves and try to do the best they can do even after that, but there's some that they need a calm force, they need a farm, they need, stuff like that. And I want to know how much of the opiate crisis is veterans, because they're messing with every bit of their health care every year. I almost married one of them. And I sat on a freaking phone for 4 hours to make a normal doctor appointment with somebody out of state. I sat there and I'm like, this is what you guys go through to make a doctor's appointment? And he's like, I haven't done it this way before, so it's kind of new. And I'm like, even if it's brand new, 4 hours, there ain't no way your patience is going to do that. So if I wasn't sitting here on the phone, how? And he said, I just wouldn't do it. He would have instead stayed sick and started having breathing issues. Right before COVID and that crap came out. There should be some type of service that they can call and say, I need you to make a doctor's appointment for me. If we can't get the 4-hour thing down, then there can be some type of service where they can call and say, I got to make a doctor's appointment. I don't know how to do it. Like, you could tell them something. You can write it down. They're going, some of them might lose it. Some of them might, there's nothing wrong with asking for that. But that's got to be available. So that there's some type of service that they can call and say, I got to make a doctor's appointment, I got to do this. And it's just like how I did with him. They call and make the appointment for him. But who's going to have the money, they'll say, to do that? With how much money we spend on a tank? So we get rid of 10 tanks a year, and we afford those women's salary or those men's salary? You might say those are the 10 you would need in a conflict. So I need the soldiers to drive it. And he still is a decent guy. It's just, we both kind of got together because we have high functioning autism, and it worked out. That will actually work out for years, and it just doesn't pair bond the same. But man, I still don't want him waiting 4 hours on a phone call to make a doctor's appointment because he's got a cold. That's a hard, if I was to think about something like him or soldiers and somebody was going to be an ambassador here and try to impress in a different country, it's actually hard because most of them want to go home. That should tell us how important this place is. Most of them just want to go home. Sounds like prison. I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm having spiritual afflictions from a town that thought I was Russian. And I'm sitting there like, I watched a video of a girl with cancer and Putin doting on her and her family because they are very big on families being able to stay with the children when they're fighting that. It looks like it's almost modeled after St. Jude. Where was the spotlight on that? Like, give credit where credit's due. And that reminds me of how an American soldier would be around kids. Like, did you try candy? Here's a candy bar, kid. Somebody has to worry about these men and women that go over, give so much, and then come back almost shells, and that's where they're the kid. You gotta say, you need a candy bar, kid? That's a really big thing, if you do have an American over there, is different types of candy. Because, I mean, there was a whole time where we were all starving. And it's in our genes to appreciate people who dote on you with food. And that's one of the first things a true Arabic man would do. A true one. Is you're going to get good coffee. You're going to get good food. And he's going to make sure you're fed. What happened to where we got those people so scared that they would be afraid of a stranger and letting anyone into their house? Like, what happened? And the smells, the spices, all these wonderful cultures that, I mean, I have a very strong bond with a lot of the history when it comes to places like Czechoslovakia and stuff like that. I'm not Czechoslovakian. I don't have the heritage, but the stories and the temples and in Transylvania, the culture of having these beautiful streets, and it might seem less to you because they're cobblestone, but those are hand-built houses. Like, those people make things still. And then sometimes they make temples by hand that are gorgeous. The wars they went to and had against Turkish people are not my wars. So I have a appreciation for those that still appreciate the culture of others. But I also understand not wanting to do it again. But the same thing happened to them that happened to Arabic. You can see every time there's this free, sweet people that would take in a friend, like a family member. Like, if you're a close enough friend, they don't want you to see you struggle. Where did we get to that the stranger couldn't become that kind of friend? Like, what strangers attacked all these civilizations? And they have a civilization. The Irish saved ours for a while. But I can appreciate Turkish candy and still love places like Transylvania or, you know, the Lithuanian mountains and how beautiful cold places can be. Not just flat and, you know, continuing on plains of snow. Or you're just riding through it or driving through it and it's one flat surface after another that's white. Instead it's beautiful mountains and old trees. And they're still scared of beings like Vlad the Impaler, and that's where you got to be careful you don't make that in America. Because eventually you will make a crucifier if this doesn't stop. But, I mean, he saved that civilization. In history, before him, There was one that stood up when in Turkish nations that did the same thing. There was someone like Balad that said, enough is enough. So if we're not careful, when we try to make our neighbor just like us, we might fight what we are trying to oppose them. People have the right to live as they want to live. And he did make a dent. Excuse me. Feels like I got shot again. Ugh. You guys don't want to create that in America because we don't function well when people are scared of us. We function well when they see us as freedom fighters. And they go, well, if you're here, there's some type of justice. They run to us for that. They ran to him too, once it got bad enough. And enough people ran to him that he said no more. We don't want to get to that point where we are, I mean, I still have respect for the history and what, I mean, he built an almost impenetrable castle. And he is a very renowned being. It isn't like the myths and stuff that go around with it. It's an actual king. So, but if he had had a little sister and they had approached her with Turkish candy instead of that, you would have seen the best, happiest big brother. There would have been peace and a lot of other things. And that before all the war and all the wanting to spread and change the nation into something else, it was different. You don't want to be like Cain and kill your brother because he's different than you. There's a lesson there that should have fallen on the ear of just about every Turk before they invaded there. That Cain killed his brother, according to a lot of the history that's written. And he did it because he was different, and he got favor for it. You don't ever want to kill someone for that reason. I saw a lady that looked like she could be, I mean, you might think, oh, dark hair, dark skin, different accent. Once in a while, they pop out a really huge blonde, and there was a woman walking around with an accent. Sounded like it was from far west in Asia or far east in Europe in the mountains, and she was standing outside with her kid, and she was getting money because they needed money. Well, I only had a couple dollars, but I kept thinking, what can I do that's actual gift? Well, I went into the dollar store, and I bought crayons, and I bought a little paper book, and I handed that to him. And, you know, it's more than $3. She didn't have to walk to the store to get it. And I think, you know, the little girl started drawing, and she was actually giving people drawings, and it's like, no, she's making her mom money. I have a lot of respect for the type of gypsy. A lot of it. That word isn't going, you know, that's almost like a slur, and I'm over here like, it isn't that way to me. there I see, it almost seems like when we use the word, if you say like riffraff, I don't mind if someone calls me riffraff. Like, I'm, like, sometimes people are on the outskirts of stuff, and they still survive it. I look at them as survivors with very little. Like, they're not a scourge. And there's a lot of families that migrate here that are like that on the East Coast. They're part of America. What a beautiful way to survive something like a depression. But you can call me Riff Raff, and I'll be fine with it. You can call me, it's not the same as a degenerate. I'll even look it up real quick for you. But any gypsy has the right to call me Riff Raff. It's not giving me a definition. It's saying it's scum, refuse, garbage, trash, or vermin. Riff Raff. You can call me garbage. I don't care. I'm one of those people that would be like, what's in it though? Like, what's still worthwhile in that? Like, if you really wanted to impress me on a date, if I did date, you would find out where the junkyard is and have enough humility that you wanted to go to that refuge to make art. Like, that would be an impressive date. Like, we're gonna go and see what can be saved. And I get mad at places like India really quick. I clash so much with a lot of their belief structures and stuff like that. I don't actually clash with the Sikhs, but when I started noticing certain things going on, I started reading about gurus. I do not trust any religion, or excuse me, I don't trust any religion, but I don't trust any religious leader that says they're the last one. They're not. As long as civilization, as long as life lives, there'll be more that people have to live to. It might even be a different religion than what you're used to. It used to be, or what I understood, that Sikhs would fight for the faith of others, even. That type of understanding is different. But Indians that don't get along with them, I know I criticize Sikhism a lot. Like, especially that last guru. Oh my gosh. But I criticize Indians that clash with them a lot more, because they almost don't want order if they can get away with certain crimes. The man that was a Sikh that admitted that some of them rape, some of them are murderous, they're not all following what they're supposed to. I thought, now you sound more like a guru than the last one. Because until you shine light on that evil, it doesn't die. That was a pretty impressive man. Someone had been caught, and there was a news article about him hurting someone, and he admitted it. But he didn't change what is. I don't expect you to change your belief structure just because someone's criticizing it. Or just because someone else in it falls. You don't walk away from your faith just because someone couldn't carry it properly. Now, trying to be like Catholics and pick and choose when you do that stuff, then I get almost irate. Because I'm like, if you don't listen to that last guru, then it almost tells you, at least from my interpretation, that you have a duty to do the right thing. Well, you don't pick up and put down duty. It's just there. So it's do the right thing, or you're changing what you are when you have that kind of sacred duty. These don't have things to, these are nothing to do with India or any of the other stuff. I usually, this got bent, and I still say, I can't bend this. I've tried to bend it back. It's hard. But I also don't take them off. And see how it is? Now look at this. See how your hands will go like that? Pull it around. I used to have a thick one on, and I took it off for a day, and somebody ended up stealing it. But what I will do is I'll do a bunch of good deeds, and I have a belief that these parts almost absorb good energy. Good energy. And kids walking around that are like, oh, nobody cares, this and that. I'll be like, one day, once in a while, I will share a piece of jewelry like that without a debt. So magicians will do that and try to get you to take jewelry from them, and they'll have a debt with it, and then they'll try to tick off your life. And I'm like, there's no debt, kid. I'm not a magician. There's a history of me being that way. It doesn't matter what faith they are or other things like that. As far as they know, it's just a little piece of cute jewelry. They do represent things. This is that I don't have to have. That's the thing, is they bent it thinking I would take it off, and the whole reason, this already has like an odd shape to it. And I said that usually on my right hand there's a piece of what you would think of as tarnished or slightly broken jewelry, because it's still worth something. Even if it's not brand new or as perfect as it can be, it has worth. So on this one there's usually something tarnished or messed with. And this one, I usually have a couple. Energy above and below Earth. See that one in the middle? Doesn't have anything to do with gods or goddesses. I don't draw a fib. It always seemed like it was something leeching. I don't do that. So, Earth. I did, however, there was a guy in south of DeWitt. No, yeah, south of DeWitt. He had a little gas station, and he was in there, and I said, what? There's something different about him. Well, an ex-friend said, I think he's a Sikh. And he was in there with his turban on and doing his duty, and I had noticed that he was working really hard. Well, there was another Sikh in there one day. I had did conch art of the temple that they worship in, and I had painted it on this little conch art, and I had given it to them. It was supposed to go to the younger one, but the older one took it, and I thought, I don't know. There was a lot of people in there, and I was being awkward, and I didn't know how to say, this is actually for the owner type thing. And he just was gracious. Oh, thank you, and took it. And hopefully he at least saw it. But I'll do stuff like that. I'll also crush a church with truth if it's doing nasty things. Doesn't need to be spitting in the food at the temple, no matter what you think the benefit is. And my spit, I have AB negative blood with an RH negative factor. So they don't even know how I heal. And my B negative is really hard to register for a reason. So when I was young, when the blood harvested me, or offspring, excuse me, my spit is different. I don't spit in other people's food regardless of the benefit. I don't think they would know who was doing it per se, but first time I saw a Sikh with a pushed eye, I was upset. Probably even irrationally so. And I'm like, that's a different thing than what you guys stem from. Nature doesn't do the collective through bottom chakras and stuff like that others do. That's probably the only thing I can agree with anyone from India on, is that you shouldn't penetrate a chakra. From the bottom to the top, they should be natural and themselves. When they try that through rape or beatings on kids to get them to think a certain way, it doesn't do what they think it's doing. It just debilitates the individual, and they don't know how to fight their natural way. I think there's been a lot of gurus that just were looked at as too low on a caste system over there and passed away or were hurt. A lot of them. Like, to a point where at the end of everything, when you learn upon death or upon the change in this earth, that you'll find out how many chances there were for peace and harmony. I think it will be a tragedy for how many are lost because of that last guru. Really don't get along with him. It's probably not a coincidence that someone in the state has a similar name. And I would look at it and be like, how'd you get reincarnated or reborn? Because that's not how that goes. You're supposed to be somewhere else after this stuff stops. So how exactly did you get your ass back here? You don't tell them to believe in reincarnation. There's a higher plane. No one charges you with certain things. And if that thing got into masonry, ugh. He'd teach them the worst architectural crap as quick as possible. Be war everywhere. Meanwhile, an actual guru going, even if you're going to kill me, I'm going to stand up for these people. And that's it. Here I'm so disgusted with how people act when it comes to understanding opioids that it's hard for me to even sit and talk peacefully. Nations have lived for a long time with rulers that did opioids. They conquered countries. Eventually there's going to be a big talk about why they influence each other the way that this goes on. You know, I just got a threat after mentioning that asshole. And the dust from this monitor, he's doing that. Well, ashes and dust are at the end of everything for a reason, asshole. It's not about reincarnation or coming back from something. But the fact that you're threatening old Egyptian punishment lets me know who probably let you out. There is a being, every time something good happens, even in civilizations. China might remember this. Whoa, you might have a history thing that really helps me out. Because you guys hold on to history like no others. So, every time there's a great leader, a great being, and a great message, out will come an adversary that will doppelgang that message and try to be it just to unravel it. It's not isolated to one religion. So there is something almost like a universal adversary. There is something, but it's not part of the AL. Universal, vital, these are part of the AL, the all. And the all's house is like Earth. I'm not Muslim. That's just the way it is. I know that sounds arrogant, but if you think about what the all is, an ever-growing presence or spirit connected to all life and all matter, then this is an all's house, the Earth. These aren't, and I'm not Christian. I am not Jewish, and I am not Muslim, and I am not going to be. Because, once again, in each of those religions, out pops that same thing. I get the feeling he went to Constantine, Muhammad, Moses, and even Joshua, and said something about 9-year-olds. And the fact that that age is very important. To where they were all interested in trying to have a young bride, whereas they wouldn't have otherwise. affected all of them. He sounds terrible, but that means he's using his nose. When he doesn't do any of that, he's not breathing through his nose. That cat has horrendous rhinitis and has his whole life. And if he gets too cold, he looks like a mucus bubble. I don't like to get him used to his allergy pill, but he has an allergy pill. Even through a lot of struggle, he has survived a lot. He is one cool little cat. I like creatures, but in particular, he's very special. You have to kind of have almost a Maine Coon, a Tiger, or some kind of cat like the American Bobtail to understand they like people. And when you're liked after going through so much crap, especially if you have PTSD, it is like a little saint. It's just warning people that he'll come up and try to climb on you when you're on the toilet if you let him in there. That's what he does. Sitting on the toilet, my cat wants to sit on your lap. Makes the whole experience kind of awkward, but that's what he likes. Oh, all that pride, that last guru, all that. This is this of me, and this is it. Like, that wasn't about Sikhism. You're making it about you. Now, the originator of Sikhism, making it about them, is different. But they didn't even do that. And I had said something about them doing it. It's still understandable if they did, from what I said. I'm talking about making it about them, not something else that is understandable. But that's not seeing age, or whatever. I get the feeling he went and played buddy to the creator of Sikhism. I just get the feeling that he destroyed part of what the message was about other faiths. The last two times I said understandable went with the sentence before it. It's not understandable to ever try to induct someone against their will. That's never understandable. Most of the ones that try to do old school would be like, why would you even think you would if you don't have any discipline? It wasn't about discipline. You're thinking Catholics beating themselves. That's what I do. Instead of tearing people apart and dissecting them, I'll take an inanimate object and I'll like flick it. These other things I'll focus on something small and start messing with it. And these other ones, if you get shot enough, especially with electromagnetic hardware, it makes like a wrath almost type of experience. This thing won't stop pissing around. I know it's that thing. Appeared like a 3-year-old kid when it was around Christian. Tried to convince him to spread his messages. And they were just about him. Tried to convince him to atone for someone. He likes to use other people's power against them. Well, there is a punishment in the old way for that part of you becomes a reflection. That's usually where something like him starts screaming, "What are you?" You don't threaten you with dust. Dust went through a punishment. Ash went through a punishment. But the reason Christian says that in the end is dust and ash is because a beautiful being once was hurt and solidified in an Egyptian pyramid. They used honey and glue and then tried to make a living statue out of someone. Took a while they tried to feed them too, to eat them like that. You don't ever threaten that shit with me. One of the most heinous acts. Ashley tried to keep burning alive. To ash them bit by bit. I'm not a Christian, but you don't do that. You don't try to take a kid and rape them when they come from places like Persia or other places, and you don't try to make them atone. You don't try to make Christian a goat. Funny that you started getting into jelly threats, though, because this is something, again, you pick this up, and that's different. Now you're getting into ocean stuff, where God's punished people. That's a whole lot different. You don't want to use those threats unless you're one of them. I think he lives over there. He's actually a deviant. Tried to dirt that. But it'll do it eventually. '80s found out the hard way that no matter how many myths you make up, when you try to turn an ah against itself and produce a male off it, someone will try to put sediment. That's it turned that's so there was an ah. They tried to control and turn it against life. Out popped '80s and manifested, and they used sediment that they tried to make off the girl to make him. It made hell. Then gloats about what would make hell. I don't know how the crap the thing got out. I'm gonna figure it out. Spiritually. And whether they like it or not, I usually do peace pipe for a lot of tobacco. And then I do something out near the fire, and it's like a spiritual talk. He's trying to get me to Google him. Other people blaming influence. You six are going to tell me how he got out. You believe his bullshit. You're going to tell me how he got out. They're usually some of the kindest people, too. And it's hard to yell at them. Especially if they're old men. But you know he's full of shit. He'll blame the influence of Masons, everybody else. Meanwhile, someone has a condition that if they possess them, they have almost no ability to defend it. Bullshit. If they beat you stupid to where you can't even talk right and sound like a child, then I might believe it. I don't think that happened. He thinks that's the thing. He just tried to fake an offering. I don't want to date you and I don't like you. I'm not trying to offer to you, and that's not how I do it anyway. But the fact that you're doing possession is interesting. The earth is allowed to do it. And I don't want to have, excuse me, good crackers. Like, someone's gonna explain how all this canned cheese is so good. Why? I know. Oh. Like, I could eat. You can tell that I could have been an MRE brat, because, like, that type of cheese, I'll just sit there like a little kid, like, it's good, though. Like, if you're ever throwing away outdated MREs, donate that crap to someone that will talk to me. Like, I once opened one, and the cracker was soft and wet and fell apart at the same time, which technically I didn't think was possible. Still ate the cheese. Oh my gosh. He'll try to use humor. It don't work. To even think that possession would be that shows that you're playing a little game. Joshua, for doing this table stuff near this, you know what I'm going to do to you? It's interesting you and the Masons wanted to threaten after you think you've carved someone enough to use them like tools against themselves. I'll try that. I made them into cartoon Cenobites. There's cartoons of it. Yeah, it really doesn't know when to quit. Because you were peaceful and happy. But then he tries to do shit like that. Or he tries to benefit off it. Or he tries to masquerade. Now, there's a thing about this being liking to masquerade and pretend to be someone else. That was the excuse. Before all of them burned that followed him, his excuse was he was just pretending that he was like that. Like Joshua pretended to be like Christian. Now don't lose Sikhism just because Singh H is a shit. Because that's his goal, is to, whenever this thing comes out, his goal is to try to stagnate and kill what good is happening. I have a theory that he's actually from Moloch. I refuse Singh H in all ways, and that's final. The Masons tried to build a collection off someone's psyche. You were doing so much better, he said, than that. That's not how we offer. I sit like that throughout my life. Why is he low enough to try to make it about sex? They think because somebody tried to do that to fake an offer, that that's what offering is. That's not offering sex. I merely was sitting like this. And he must be in that direction. And that's what that scumbag tried to take as an offer. Don't worship that asshole. Not that you're supposed to worship gurus anyway. That's not how that works. That's not an offer in the military. I'm not in the military either way. That's not how Olympians offer. I'm not an Olympian. This isn't how I offer to anyone. I can feel phantom touching now. More than likely that thing's over there touching something and trying to think of someone. Now you have proof. You prove that, you prove that he's not a guru. Tell the rest of them.